Hi, I hope you all are doing alright. Adjusting, I know I am. I don't know what day it is anymore or when things are due anymore, so I'm having a great time. What I have been doing though is I've been like really deep diving into the Lord of the Rings movies. Like I've been going back and like, watching the behind the scenes stuff, and I actually found some stuff for my paper, which has been cool. But I want to talk about today some of the heroes' journeys within the movies specifically, and then also specifically Frodo and Aragorn's heroes' journeys, because I feel like those are the most compelling and the ones that are the most fulfilling. And I'm going to start with Frodo. So Frodo's call to adventure is when he gets the ring from Bilbo, and his refusal of the call, it kind of happens twice. The first time is when like he tries to give the ring to Gandalf when he's still in the Shire, and then at the Council of Elrond he like willingly puts the ring on the table. It's like, this is yours, I did my part. His supernatural aid, he has a couple. He has the ring, obviously. He has Gandalf, and he has eventually Galadriel's glyphs, including the light of Elendil, or Arendil. I don't remember exactly what it's called, but it's like his little flashlighty thing. And then Gandalf is also kind of like his mentor throughout the entire trilogy movies, kind of just like maybe the memory of him or the thought of him, because like he thinks Gandalf is dead like after Moria. Like he doesn't actually find out that Gandalf is still alive until the ring is actually destroyed. And then the crossing of the first threshold happens twice. Literally, the first time is when Frodo and Sam are going through the Shire, and Sam says, "This is the farthest I've ever been from the Shire." And then also later on, when he and the Fellowship embark on their quest from Rivendell. The Road of Trials is like just all, not all of it, but if I had to pick a specific point, I think I would choose two. I would choose the first in the second movie, where like at the beginning of the second movie where Frodo and Sam meet Gollum, like kind of when they're going in circles and they're on the way to the Black Gate, and then also the steps of Cirith Ungol, so like the steps that are up by Minas Morgul. There it is. It's been a hot second since I've talked about the movies. Yeah, so those are like kind of more specifically his Road of Trials, but like all of the like he's on a journey, so that's really his Road of Trials. The Belly of the Whale is kind of like, I think it's Moria. It's like the Moria, and then also when he's kidnapped by the orcs in the third movie, and like when he's in Mordor, that's where he's like, you realize what deep shit he's in. And then meeting with the goddess, he has Galadriel, obviously, and that's like the meeting of the beautiful woman that helps him out. And then like Galadriel also crops up in the third movie when he like has a vision of her. And then Woman is Temptress doesn't really have one unless you wanted to count Shelob, the giant spider. I don't really think so. I mean, I would almost think Shelob is more meeting with the goddess, where it's like you have the goddess could be evil, a la Cersei. So like Shelob coming and like stopping his journey for a minute, by nearly killing him, being the either Woman is Temptress or another form of meeting with the goddess. Then forgot where I was. Atonement with the Father doesn't really have one. Maybe it has something to do with Sauron, or maybe it's when he sends Sam home, like solidifying himself with Gollum. doesn't really have a father figure in the story at all, so I don't really think there is an atonement with a father. His apotheosis is when he refuses to destroy the ring and like gets that surge of like evil power and puts the ring on at Mount Doom. Okay, so Mount Doom. So you have all of these beautiful elven, like beautiful cultural names throughout all the rest of Middle Earth, and the volcano you name Mount Doom. Like Tolkien just like ran out of ideas there, I feel like. So the ultimate boon is, I think, Sam and or Gollum, because Sam like literally takes him up Mount Doom, and then Gollum is the one that does actually destroy the ring. So either of them could fit into the ultimate boon category. The refusal of the return is when Frodo says he doesn't want to destroy the ring. He also kind of has one throughout the whole epilogue of the story where he says he can't like go back to the way he was living in the Shire, like he's too broken from his journey. Magic Flight and then also Return from Without are when Gandalf comes to pick Frodo and Sam up with the eagles. So the eagles being like another form of supernatural aid coming to get Frodo. His crossing of the return threshold is when he goes back to the Shire. His Master of Two Worlds is when he's living in the Shire, but he is so broken from his adventures that he can't really like enjoy it anymore. And then Freedom to Live is when he goes into the West. Pretty depressing. Frodo doesn't really get a happy ending. It's kind of sad. Now really quickly, I want to talk about Aragorn, who's one of my favorite characters. He has a super satisfying hero's journey. So his call to adventure is when he meets with the hobbits at the tavern at Bree. It doesn't really have a refusal of the call. If you want to like really nitpick, it could be like him yelling at the hobbits. His supernatural aid is Arwen's necklace, which I am wearing, which kind of like is her protection. He also has the Armies of the Dead in the third movie, and then he also, of course, has Anduril, which is the sword that was broken. His crossing of the first threshold, I think for him personally, is at Amon Hen at the end of the first movie. I have specifically the line, "I would have gone with you to the end," where he kind of like lets Frodo go. He has a couple of Belly of the Whales. Moria, of course, Helm's Deep, and then also the Dead Army's Caves, where he's like kind of in that deep trouble in the journey. His Road of Trials is chasing after Merry and Pippin, and then also is specifically in the movies, it's when he falls off the cliff in the second movie, and like his horse comes and rescues him. Meeting with the Goddess, you have Galadriel, of course, and then also when his horse comes and rescues him in that second movie, you have Arwen, who like is like giving her life force for him. Woman is Temptress. I think it's Éowyn. I think like the kind of subplot with Éowyn crushing on Aragorn doesn't really affect Aragorn as much as it affects Éowyn, but it is kind of like a what if. Like, what if Aragorn fell in love with a human instead of an immortal, magical being? His Atonement of the Father, I think, can count when he rides with Theoden at Helm's Deep. His apotheosis is after receiving Anduril, which is his sword, when he shows up at the Battle of Pelennor Fields in the third movie with the Ghost Army, and he's like their leader, kind of like stepping into his heritage. His ultimate boon is the Ghost Army, and then also the Palantir, I feel like, in the movie, where he like calls to Sauron and says, "Come at me, bro." His refusal of the call is when they're at the Black Gate, and he refuses to believe that Frodo is dead, and he like starts the battle at the Black Gate. His Magic Flight is also fighting at the Black Gate. I think he doesn't really have one, so I feel like fighting like the weird troll thing counts. His rescue from without is when Frodo destroys the ring, and that sets up the destruction of the armies of Mordor. He doesn't really have control of his rescue from without. It's kind of all Frodo there, or like Gollum. I don't know how you want to classify that. His crossing of the return threshold is when he's crowned king, and more specifically when he reunites with Arwen, because Arwen was kind of like the symbol of his previous life before he went on the adventure with the Fellowship. His Master of Two Worlds is he's the king of Gondor, but he's still friends with hobbits, so he's like still associating himself with like a lower class of, or like a lower race than him, I guess. And then his freedom to live is he lives happily ever after as king of Gondor. So I hope you enjoyed kind of my analysis. I thought it was super satisfying to go through the hero's journey for these two guys. The hero's journey differs just a little bit, and I feel it's even more fulfilled in the books specifically than in the movies, but even so, the movies kind of really fit step by step through the hero's journey. So I hope I get to talk to you again soon. Wash your hands, don't put your fingers in your mouth, and I'll see you next time. Bye!